All right, let's jump right in. Today we're tackling a question that gets to the very heart of, well, everything. What is our universe actually made of at its most fundamental level?
So, to get our heads around this, let's start with a simple but huge question. Is our reality more like a smooth, continuous painting, or is it more like a digital video game, built out of a finite number of pixels? Honestly, the answer could change everything we think we know. So this really breaks down the two big ideas. On one side, you've got continuous reality. It's like a perfect brush stroke on a canvas. You could zoom in forever, and it would just keep getting smoother, always divisible into smaller and smaller pieces. But on the other side, there's finite reality. This is way more like your computer screen. If you get in close enough, you eventually hit the individual pixels. There's a hard limit, a maximum level of detail, and you can't go any deeper.
For centuries, science really leaned hard into one of these ideas. So let's start with that more traditional point of view.
Yeah, this was pretty much the default assumption in physics for a very long time. The idea was that the fabric of the universe was just infinitely smooth. You could take any distance, any moment in time, and just theoretically cut it in half, then in half again, and just keep on doing that for all eternity, without ever hitting some fundamental, indivisible building block.
But here's where things get interesting. What if that whole assumption is just wrong? What if you do eventually hit a bottom? What if reality, just like a digital photo, simply runs out of detail once you zoom in far enough? This question, right here, is the doorway to a pretty radical new way of thinking.
And that new way of thinking has a name. Researchers are starting to call it physical vacuum architecture.
So, physical vacuum architecture, or PVA for short, basically says our universe isn't infinitely smooth at all. Instead, it acts more like a system, kind of like a computer simulation or the sensor in a digital camera that has a built-in, hard-coded maximum resolution.
This really boils down to three core principles. First, that physical existence is just not infinitely detailed. Second, because of that, it's actually bounded by a fundamental resolution limit. And third, and this is the real kicker, this limit isn't just some fun fact. It acts as a deep, fundamental constraint on what can and cannot exist in our universe.
So, what happens when a universe has a resolution limit? What are the consequences? This is where the theory gets genuinely mind-bending.
Okay, just think about this for a second. We're not talking about the limits of our microscopes or our ability to measure things. PVA is suggesting that the universe itself has a maximum level of detail that it can physically handle. Go beyond that limit, and the very concept of more detail might just be meaningless. And this, right here, illustrates the most staggering implication of the whole theory. Just read this quote from the source material. Not all mathematically definable structures can physically exist. I mean, for centuries, we've kind of assumed that if you can describe something with math, then it's at least theoretically possible. PVA just slams the door on that whole idea.
Let me put that another way. It means that in a finite, sort of pixelated reality, the universe has a limited set of building blocks and rules. So just because our math can dream up some infinitely complex shape or structure doesn't mean the universe actually has the resolution to build it. The cosmos might not have enough pixels to render that idea into reality.
So you can see the logical flow here. First, reality has a resolution limit. Second, that limit creates real, hard constraints on the entire system. And third, the direct result of that is that some things we can imagine are and always will be physically impossible to create.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. What's the big takeaway from all this? How does this idea really change our fundamental picture of the world we live in?
This final comparison really puts it all into perspective, I think. The old view saw reality as this infinite canvas, where anything that's mathematically possible could be painted onto it. But the PVA view, it sees reality as a finite system, with real boundaries and limitations. It's a huge shift from infinite possibility to a bounded, finite existence.
Ultimately, this isn't just about whether reality is chunky or smooth way down at the bottom. It redefines the entire relationship between the abstract world of math and the concrete world of physical existence. It suggests there are rules literally built into the hardware of the universe that our software, our mathematics, simply can't override.
And this leaves us with one final, kind of awe-inspiring question. If our reality really does have a resolution limit, a final pixel, then what, if anything, lies beyond it? Is it just nothing? Or is that where a whole new, different set of rules begins? Now that is something to think about. Thanks for joining me.